So there are, of course, other types of content you might like to add to your website, such as images or links. To help us out with our example of how to add images or links, we're going to make use of a sample table found on the lab pages at this link here. It takes us to a table that looks like this. We learned how to do tables previously, so you might be able to reproduce this table if you'd like to practice. But for now, I'm just going to show people how to take code off of a website. Now, it's important to be careful when you're taking code off of a website because code is intellectual property, and just taking it without permission from other sites is plagiarism and will get you in trouble. But as this is just our own example, it's fine. To take the code for this table, all we have to do is right-click somewhere on the page. If we're using Firefox, there should be a link that will say View Page Source. Other browsers will have different wording, but they should all have some function that says something like this. This will take us to a new page that has the code that made this whole page, which for this page is just a table. To get this table for ourselves, all we would have to do is drag over all of this and copy it and paste it into our notepad. Remember that in order for a website to work as a website, we have to save it as a website. So we'll click File, Save As, and we'll name this one testing2.html. And remember, when you're making a website, you have to put .html at the back or it won't be a website. We'll hit save. And now in our CS100 folder, we should have a file named testing2 that has this table. So we can go back to our lab page and have a look at this. So when you're adding a picture, there are two ways you can do it. The first is called relative addressing. When you do relative addressing, it means you have a copy of the picture saved somewhere with the rest of your files, so that when the browser is looking for that picture, it just searches it relative to everything else and then displays it based on that. In order to have a relative address for your website, you will have to save a picture into your CS100 folder. I have a picture here I would like to add to my site, so I could just right-click it, hit Save Image As. Make sure I'm saving in my CS100 folder. When you save a picture, it's always best to make the name as easy as possible so that it's less work for you to add it later. So I'm going to name it dog.jpg. If you don't have your picture as a .jpg, that is fine. That does not matter. Just leave it however it was as default. And I'll hit save. Since this is a relative picture and relative is the middle row of my table here, I'm going to get rid of this first NBSP, and here's where I'll add my picture. To add the picture, it's simply bracket img space, and then you'll add the attribute source, which is src. It tells the browser where you're going to get the picture from, and you just put the name of the picture here and the file extension of the picture here. And you have to make sure that it matches exactly how it was saved in the folder in order for it to work. Once you've got that, you just close that tag. And once I've saved, I should be able to go back, open this, and I have the picture in my table. Now you'll notice the picture is way too big. And you can fix that simply by adding other attributes, such as width, which will set the width of the picture. I can set it to a nice 100. And height, which will adjust the height. Both of these are measured in pixels. Heights of 100 and width of 100 are fairly small, which should suit my table fine. So now I've got the picture in my table. So again, that was a relative address because it found the picture relative to the rest of my files, and I had a copy saved locally. Relative addressing is often more reliable than absolute addressing because you have complete control over whatever the picture or file is that you're referencing relatively. The other method is absolute addressing, and an absolute address is simply pointing at a space on the internet and saying, find this information here. It's helpful because it allows you to link to things that you don't own, such as other sites, and it's a little bit less work and memory involved on your end. However, it's unreliable because if the owner of the page changes anything, it can break your picture or link. To do an absolute address, I can look at the album art from my friend's music and right click on a poster and click View Image. And this will take you to a spot on the internet that looks exactly at that picture's address, and that is found in your address bar here. All you would have to do is copy that address, and then the exact same thing as what we wrote above. We could go image, we could give it a width of 100 and a height of 100 to make sure it's not too big again. And then we just need the source. We paste that address and close the image tag there. And once we've done that, we should have that other picture as the absolute address. And it's, again, absolute because we did not save a copy of it. We simply pointed to its location on the internet. When you're doing your own websites and your website starts to get really big, you may like to add your own images folder just to help you keep everything aligned and easy to look at. And you could do that just by going New Folder. You could name it something like Images, and you could put the dog picture in there. However, if you do use a folder to organize things, you have to remember to path to that picture, because now that that dog picture is not in the same folder, it won't work. But if I simply go images/dog, it will look in the images folder and then find the dog picture.